your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition.
Hello, I'm Naveen Day. Here's what made headlines this week. Mark Carney was sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister Friday. Last weekend, he won a landslide victory to take the helm of the Liberals from Justin Trudeau. Carney won with 85.9% of the vote. Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland came in a distant second, Karina Gold in third, and Frank Baylis came in last.
I, Mark Carney, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty, King Charles III, as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things, to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion.
But a day earlier, Justin Trudeau marked his last full day in office as Prime Minister. He issued a farewell message on social media as he leaves office after more than 9 years as Prime Minister and does not plan to run again.
I am so proud of Canadians. I'm proud to have served a country full of people who stand up for what's right, rise to every occasion, and always have each other's backs when it matters most. This may be my last day here in this office, but I will always be boldly and unapologetically Canadian. My only ask is that no matter what the world throws at us, you always be the same.
Now, to talk more about Carney's recent win and the upcoming federal election, date TBA at the time of this newscast, is lawyer and the host of Grey Matter, Leighton Grey. He sat down with BCN's Paul Arthur to unpack what we do know about the new Prime Minister and what we should.
There was about 400,000 party memberships sold, and of course the whole thing was done online, so that adds a little more, I guess, potential for manipulation. I'm not saying that happened, I don't know, but only about a third of those 150,000 were able to be verified. So 250,000 memberships, they didn't get to vote? That's a crazy high number of disqualified memberships. I mean, so should there be some sort of an investigation into that? I mean, if that were to happen with the Conservative Party or any other party, you'd think there'd be some outrage.
Well, this gets back to the question of honor. And the Liberal Party, unfortunately, is completely disconnected from this concept. And the reason why this is important, getting back to my earlier point, is that the structure of Canadian federalism and peace, order, and good governance is based upon the honorable, ethical conduct of our members of parliament. It used to be, the reason why that title, honorable, exists is because under British parliamentary rules, under convention, if any member of parliament was involved in any type of scandal or if their integrity were questioned, they would be forced to temporarily step away until that was fully investigated, just as you described, and it was shown that there was no wrongdoing. That's why that title, honorable, is there. So Canada has a very beautiful, very effective political system, which has served us very well for a long time. But the Liberals have made an important change. They've hacked the system, and they're going to continue to abuse that for as long as they possibly can. And I predict, instead of calling a national election, which is what should happen, what they're going to do in order to install Mark Carney into Parliament is they're going to have a current member of Parliament, perhaps Justin Trudeau, resign and hold a by-election in a Liberal quote-unquote stronghold to install him there so that he can be a functional Prime Minister in the House of Commons. When the honorable thing to do, if what should happen if we were being governed by, according to peace, order, and good government, is we would have a national election so that Canadians could make a clear decision on Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre and Mr. Singh and anybody else who's running for as a leader of our country.
Well, hopefully an election gets called soon. I mean, odds are that it probably will be, although he could wait. I mean, I do understand that the Liberal Party is quite a bit behind as far as fundraising goes, so who knows? They could pause it, right? What qualifies, I guess, Carney to be the Prime Minister and to lead our nation for the next 4 years? On the global stage, competing with the likes of Donald Trump, with all the trade wars and stuff going around, wars, literal wars, Canadians, what do we want? We want to bring affordability back, right? We want to see our massive debt reduced. So what qualifies Carney to be the guy to do that, you think?
Well, I think the question is rhetorical. I mean, it's unanswered. The fact is he isn't qualified. And if we define qualification in terms of that he has been selected, he has actually been elected. Even Justin Trudeau was a member of Parliament. And getting back to this question of honor, not to beat the horse. Back in 2015, when Justin Trudeau was running for Prime Minister, there are rules about disclosure, public disclosure, and that anyone who wants to be Prime Minister have to make. Mark Carney has refused to make those disclosures. The same ones that Justin Trudeau did in 2015. And so Canadians should be very, very concerned about this. We don't know who this is. We don't know what qualifies him to be our Prime Minister. We know that he has a very checkered history. Anybody who does not want a globalist World Economic Forum banker who cherishes net zero and supports basically socialist economic systems would not want Mark Carney as our Prime Minister. And there are many Canadians who don't want that kind of governance because we've had about 10 years of it force-fed to us by the Trudeau regime. So I'm hopeful that we're going to get an election, but the fact that we have to hope for an election is part of the problem, isn't it?
This trade war between Canada and the United States has been feeling like a high-stakes chess game between the two countries, with the latest move seeing Canada imposing a dollar-for-dollar 25% reciprocal tariff on $29.8 billion worth of imports from the United States. Dominic LePlanc, Canada's Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs, made the announcement Wednesday in response to U.S. President Donald Trump going ahead with the 25% aluminum and steel tariffs put in place Tuesday. LeBlanc breaks down these latest $29.8 billion tariff measures.
This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter-tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter-tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th. In addition, we learned yesterday that the United States tariffs would also be imposed on steel and aluminum content in certain derivative products. The government is currently assessing this aspect and may impose, of course, further tariffs in response to this measure as well.
Canada's retaliation to U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs includes a host of common household goods, including the kitchen sink. Well, that's according to the Canadian press. The extensive list is part of the broader counter-tariff package expected to expand to $155 billion in imported U.S. products by the end of the month. Here are just some of the consumer items imported into Canada from the U.S. that are expected to soon cost 25% more. Here we go. Video game consoles, microphones, speakers, headphones, and other audio equipment, watches, sleeping bags, fishing gear, golf clubs, and tennis rackets, sailboard and water sports equipment, tricycles and toy scooters, stoves, barbecues, shovels and rakes, toothbrushes, hairbrushes, and combs. The full list of items can be found on the Canadian government's website. And as announced Wednesday, the federal government also intends to pose tariffs on an additional list of imported U.S. products worth $125 billion. This second list will be made available in the coming days. Now, to hear his thoughts on the Canada-U.S. trade war is People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier. In an interview late last week with Jeanette Rocher, Bernier says counter-tariffs are a, quote, stupid idea.
actually the tariffs that Trump did impose, it didn't impose on us, on Canadian consumers. It did impose that on American businesses and American consumers. What Trump is doing is imposing 25% tariffs on goods coming from Canada, goods that Americans import import from Canada. So you know, when Trudeau is imposing another 25% tariffs, what he's doing is taxing us. And I said we must not do that, because all the goods coming from the U.S. here in Canada will be the prices will go up, inflation will go up. That is hurting us and our economy. So more than that, that is hurting the U.S. economy. It is hurting us first. So that's why I said it's a bad idea. It's a stupid idea, actually. Trudeau used that word when he did a press conference.
Yes.
He said to Mr. Trump, you know, you're intelligent, but what you're doing is stupid.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Trudeau did the same thing. Yeah. It's stupid also from him to impose tariffs on us. So our position is you don't impose any tariff, you just wait and you ask the US to reopen the free trade agreement that we have with them right now instead of waiting in 2026, and you put everything on the table. Don't do that. It is hurting us. And now some economists are saying because of that, we may be in a recession in Canada in a couple of months. So, and Poilievre, the official opposition, is okay with that. He said, yeah, it's okay to do that. Actually, Poilievre, when he did his press conference, he said to Mr. Trump, what you're doing, it will hurt your economy. Your people will lose their jobs. Prices will go up. And after that, he said, yes, in Canada, we'll do the same. Right. So that would be the same impact. People will lose their jobs and prices will go up. So let's be honest. And, you know, that's an emotional reaction.
Yes.
And the real rational reaction must be to be calm, nothing, and try to have a discussion with Trump on the broad and global free trade agreement that we have with them.
The Ontario Court of Appeal has dismissed an appeal of Chris Barber, Tamara Leach, and hundreds of protesters and donors in a $290 million class action lawsuit against the Freedom Convoy. The defendants asked the court to overturn the dismissal of an anti-SLAPP motion, which stands for Strategic Law Against Public Participation. The class action suit will continue to proceed. In 2022, thousands of Canadians from all parts of Canada drove to Ottawa to protest federal COVID vaccine mandates and lockdowns. In June of 2023, lawyers from the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms launched the anti-SLAPP motion, but in February of 2024, Justice Callum MacLeod dismissed the motion at the Superior Court of Ontario. Last week, BCN reported that a notable protester at the Coutts border blockade was sentenced at the Lethbridge courthouse. Alex Van Herk, who was convicted of mischief for his role in Coutts, was given a 90-day conditional sentence to be served in the community. Van Herk will be required to perform 100 hours of community service and be on 12 months of probation. He will be required to look into serving the towns of Milk River and Coutts to fulfill his community service hours and will not be permitted to interact with fellow co-accused Marco Van Hugenbos or George Jansen during the 90-day period. Justice Keith Yamauchi says Van Herk is, quote, well on the way to rehabilitation as he's recognized the wrong he's committed. Van Herk issued a statement of apology to the court and community on his role at the blockade, but also says he does not regret standing up for what he believes is right.
It's sad that people had to use these kind of means to be heard for the government overreach that was happening, and it's sad that people had to go to Ottawa and to Coutts to be heard, right? So I regret, I think not a regret, but I know in the future people better get involved in their political life, and because we need to make change in our political leaders, and the only way we're going to get change is if people stand up against them.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith was in Houston, Texas for CERAWeek, a major international energy conference. While there, Smith discussed potential overseas sales of Alberta-owned heavy oil with a global oil and petrochemical firm. The potential deal with a multinational company, which was not named by Alberta, would be a transaction that would see the overseas transport and sale of about 2 million barrels per month of its oil via the Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission. On Tuesday, the province signed a partnership agreement with JOGMEC, the state-owned enterprise under Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, to boost collaboration in developing Alberta's energy and natural resources. And while in Houston at the Energy Conference, Premier Smith spoke at the summit that included Doug Bargum, the Interior Secretary in the Trump administration, as well as U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Earlier this week, Jeanette Roche sat down with federal political columnist Brian Lilley, who says people were criticizing Premier Smith for even being in Houston.
Some people are saying, oh, why are you down there? Why are you talking to our enemies? If you're not talking to the people who are in the administration or close to the administration or the CEOs that can influence the administration to try and get tariffs lifted, well, what are you doing? I mean, you just want them to sit at home and do nothing? Look, I support both the moves that Ontario Premier Doug Ford has taken and the moves that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Scott Moe's down there, by the way, Saskatchewan's Premier, they're all trying in their own ways to find a way to get us out of this situation. Absolutely, they should be down there doing this. Just like they've both gone to Washington a couple of times. I believe the Premier should be in Washington more often. Again, complete lack of federal leadership at the moment, and we may not have federal leadership for months to come. The Premiers need to step up. Danielle Smith is doing that. Anyone that's criticizing her is a reactionary person who just wants to go to war with the United States.
You can catch that full interview with Brian Lilley on our YouTube channel, where Brian dissects Mark Carney's Liberal leadership win and offers his predictions about when the country might see its next election. According to Brian, it could be called as early as this Sunday for next month. Earlier this week, Alberta Health Minister Adriana LaGrange defended her government's decision to potentially send unused Turkish-manufactured Tylenol to Ukraine. When speaking to reporters, she called the imported medication, quote, good quality drugs, despite previous concerns raised by healthcare staff.
The manufacturer of these drugs, AB, actually supplies acetaminophen for most of Europe, Northern Africa, and the Middle East as well. So these are good quality drugs. They would not have been allowed to come into Alberta by Health Canada were they not good quality drugs. So first, to correct that misinformation. Second, since I came into office, I have had concerns about these good quality drugs sitting on a shelf and not wanting to see them expire. If we can't use them in Alberta, then we should be sending them to other countries, particularly war-torn countries that have a lack of medication for their people, and that's what we've been exploring.
Premier Danielle Smith told reporters at a press conference last week that the province was approached by a third party with the idea to send the medication to Ukraine. Smith said the government is now looking for Health Canada approval and a deal is in the works. Now that the switch has been made from standard time to daylight saving time, how are you feeling? Some say the time change can have a negative impact on our bodies and our minds. Rob McDonald is one of those people. He is a professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of Lethbridge. He explained to BCN's Jeanette Roche the impacts that time can have on our bodies, particularly our circadian rhythms.
One of the issues is just the shifting. So what is the impact of the shifting? And there are short-term acute changes that happen. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your sleep. But it also can have effects like increases in industrial accidents, car accidents, higher incidences of heart attacks and strokes and things like that. But these are very acute effects that happen within a week or two of when the shift happens.
Okay, that sounds pretty serious, getting away from just the sleeping issues and the mood changes. I would imagine the accidents and whatnot are caused because of the sleeping issues, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, they're related.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we talking about losing a day or two of sleep or having a bad day now and then? Or are we talking long-term depression, insomnia?
No, I would argue that these shifting effects are really acute. They're not going to last that long.
Can you tell us a bit about how our minds and our bodies work together? How much does this affect our circadian rhythm?
Yeah, so you have deep inside your brain a tiny little clock, and it's called the master clock. And it's connected directly to your eyes. And so when you wake up in the morning, you get that beautiful broad spectrum sunlight. It sets your clock for the day. And that little clock, it's only like 20,000 neurons in a brain of 86 billion neurons. So tiny, tiny little system. It has control over so many different things in both your brain and your body. And what it's doing is it's setting all of these different clocks. So for example, in your stomach, it's setting that clock every day. Different parts of your brain that do different things, it's setting those clocks as well.
That's so interesting. I mean, are these same things happening if you are, say, going to another part of the world where you're switching your clock, like you have to go to Europe? Is it the same type of effect on your body?
Yes, it's exactly the same thing. So that you're talking about jet lag. So, yeah, so let me just step back for a second. So the clock is trying to, basically it's like a conductor, and it's telling certain parts of the body to do certain things at certain times. So be very active. And then other times of day, it's bringing them down to very low levels. So it's like taking resources and allocating them when you need them. So when you need to eat, it's telling the stomach and the GI tract to be ready and have all of those mechanisms ready. And when you're sleeping and fasting, those systems go down. So it's this beautiful coordination of all of these biological functions. When you do things like shift work or you fly across to Europe, you are massively disrupting that system. And so when you fly to Europe, for example, it can take you up to a week or two before that clock gets set again. Shift work, which we study, is even worse. It is linked to cancer, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, diabetes. It's crazy how bad that kind of lifestyle is on your brain and body.
Up next, we have previews of upcoming galas and musicals, which should hopefully take your mind off of some of the more negative news going around. Don't go away. Lethbridge Family Services is about to celebrate its first Spring to Light benefit gala. The fundraising event will be held on April 25th, and it will recognize LFS's 115 years of service to the community. Michelle Gallucci, Director of Advancement and Communications with LFS, explains the exciting features of the gala and the program the funds will benefit.
For a health and wellness program facilitator and navigator for our Immigrant Services Department, to help our newcomer children, youth, and families navigate the mental health system. Our guest speaker, Mr. Rick Mercer, he's excited to come. We are very excited that he's going to speak to our crowd, questions and answer, and he will sign a few books if people bring their books. We hope to raise $50,000. We will have 50 silent auction items. They are really great. Every auction item is $250 or more. The tickets are $200 each because it is a fundraiser, and we have 84 tickets left.
Wow, that looks a lot of fun. Rick Mercer. The event will be at the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. Tickets can be found at lfsfamily.ca. Now, if you love Broadway musicals, a very famous one is coming to Lethbridge. Mamma Mia will be hitting the stage at the Knights of Columbus Eggplant Theatre. It's being put on by Catholic Central High School from March 14th to 22nd. Jessica Enns, one of the show's producers, explains how this musical will support the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Center. Enns and others involved in this exciting event explain how much they've been preparing for the production and what the public can experience with attending to the show.
Mamma Mia has been a show that has been quite an enjoyable and exciting time to put on. We've been working hard with our cast since the end of October and our crew since the start of December.
I'm excited to do the show because I feel like a lot of the people I know around me know a lot of ABBA music, and that's kind of the sole reason why I'm doing the show.
And we have 10 shows available. A few are close to selling out already. We do have some availability. Tickets can be purchased through our school website. And tickets are $20 plus the service charge for our regular performances and $25 for our sing-along events. We have 3 sing-along shows. So then $5 per ticket will go to the Child, Youth and Advocacy Center.
Such a wonderful opportunity for us to collaborate together to raise money for the center. It's a great initiative to involve students and youth in doing some of that fundraising and getting that advocacy about child abuse out into the public and discussed among schools. Partnerships with schools is one of our favorite partnerships to have because this is where the youth are. This is where we can connect with them one-on-one.
I can picture a lot of people in the audience singing along to that show. Should be a great one. Tickets are available through Eventbrite and links can be accessed through Catholic Central's webpage. Halo Air Ambulance was the belle of the ball at the Home Garden and Leisure Show, which opened its doors Thursday and is in full swing at Lethbridge's Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. The charity was presented with a check for over $21,000 from Real Estate Center, a business that recently held a fundraiser in support of Halo and other similar charities. CEO for Halo Air Ambulance, Paul Carolyn, says air ambulances can access hard-to-reach places more quickly and easily than a traditional ambulance, which means it saves more lives.
We go to the worst of the worst, right? So helicopters are reserved for the sickest of the sick and the hurtest of the hurst. And so they have a big role to play. And when we get into rural Alberta, even in centers around Lethbridge and Medicine Hat that have a big municipal population, it takes a long time for an ambulance to get places, whether it's river valleys or coulees or canals. Sometimes it can take hours. And so the helicopter doesn't have to deal with any of those things. We cruise at 250 kilometers an hour and go as the bird flies. So, a flight from Medicine Hat to Lethbridge is about 40 minutes.
We actually do an annual fundraiser once a year with our company White for Stars and Halo, and we have focused in on Halo because we have an office in Taber and we cover the southern Saskatchewan area. So because of Halo being there and Stars not being able to fly in there, we want to make sure that we support Halo as well. This year was a record year, so in total we did $84,000 with $21,000 going to Halo, and last year we did about $49,000. I don't know what the total was that went to Halo, but yeah, this was a record year for us.
You can see the newest addition to Halo Air Ambulance's fleet at the Home, Garden and Leisure Show, which runs until today. After the break, Jeanette Rocher took the chance to chat with Tim Symes. He's the seniors pastor at the Evangelical Free Church in Lethbridge. He gave her valuable advice on ways to keep the romance alive in your marriage. And if you're watching us online, that full interview is available on our YouTube channel.